Concierto de Aranjuez. It always gets a bit heated when a flamenco guitarist dares to play this. Some classical players feel like their sacred grounds are being violated by these uppity upstarts with their flashy technique and casual stance. Even the otherworldly Paco de Lucia had prominent classical critics when he played the Concerto in 1991. Honestly, some of this might just be jealousy, because the performance is genuinely fantastic. The Aranjuez is easily the most iconic guitar composition out there. Almost everyone will have heard this piece, even if you don't know its name. None other than Miles Davis even mistook it for an ancient tune and got into trouble for not crediting Joaquin Rodrigo, who was very much alive and well at that time. Talk about instant classics. If a guitarist gets the rare chance to play with an orchestra, it's almost always Aranjuez, even though there would be many other excellent options. No, but it really could be much worse, because at least the Aranjuez is truly mwah. In the last few days, I listened to like 40 different versions and it still reliably hits the spot. It's by far the greatest triumph for the instrument and a bit of a burden at the same time because of that. Let's see what we can learn about the piece from how flamenco guitarists play it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this. The opening theme of the second movement is so stereotypical at this point that we could probably just replace the word Spain with these notes and most would understand just fine. It's no coincidence that it starts with the guitar in its traditional place, which means strumming a campfire chord while the much nobler English horn is setting the scene. Once the theme is established, the guitar is actually allowed to take over, and then we instantly hear why it can work so well in the hands of a flamenco player. Most of the second movement is really just a grand pre-written flamenco improvisation. Lots of the techniques needed here are basically flamenco 101. Fast apoyando scales, rasgueados, these arrastre sweeping arpeggios, and just generally the powerful Phrygian tonality with lots of these yearning appoggiaturas that breathe into the empty space. It's basically a lot of really well-written licks. Incredibly romantic, very folkloristic, and just super captivating. The main cadenza, which is the classical term for an extended solo, is so good. Very difficult to play though. Which brings us back to the start. What makes a good Aranjuez performance? Let's go through the unique challenges that one would encounter when preparing for one. A lot of this relates to things that most guitarists never get to deal with, but that probably makes it even more valuable to know. The soloist will of course need a lot of skill and especially endurance, more on that later. But it's actually a weirdly difficult piece for the orchestra too. For them it's usually really hard to play in sync with a guitar. Mostly because it's such a quiet instrument, but also because the guitar has a much faster attack than an orchestra. When playing with guitarists, orchestra players are often relying only on visual cues because they actually might not hear anything. This often makes the orchestra lag behind at crucial moments. Rodrigo was aware of this problem and he usually lets the guitar play alone or only with a smaller section of the orchestra. Still, for most orchestra instruments it's really hard to hold back so much. Playing quietly while keeping a precise articulation, intonation and the general sound quality is a massive challenge for most instruments, especially with these massive contrasts and sharp accents that are necessary for the Aranjuez. Amplification won't automatically fix this either. Simply making the guitar louder doesn't change the issue that its most resonant frequencies compete directly with the orchestra. Especially when the stage monitoring is insufficient, conductors will often request even more amplification, and this can ultimately lead to the entire sound becoming a muddy, boomy mess. This is another thing where a more flamenco-style approach can actually help. Flamenco guitarists have a harsher, less resonant attack than classical players. While on its own it's a sound most classical guitarists avoid, Paco's playing was probably much easier to follow for his orchestra, and one of the greatest strengths of that performance is really its steady rhythm. Of course, he also displays a superhuman amount of technical control, and it's just awesome to see someone play these scales so casually relaxed, at a speed where most others are going to struggle a lot. For recording engineers, it's also a unique problem to maintain a believable balance between the guitar and the orchestra. Placing the support microphone too close to the guitar can make it sound unnaturally boomy and dry. Placing it too far away can quickly lead to the guitar getting drowned out in the mix. All of this explains why there are really not that many truly excellent recordings of the concerto, even though it has been done hundreds if not thousands of times. To have all things be top-notch, the guitarist, orchestra, how in sync they are and the recording quality in combination, that's just very rare. Okay, let's look at the guitar part. To perform the piece as a whole, the difficulty is really extraordinary. But to look at it in sections, that's fairly doable even for less advanced players. Which is why I really recommend anyone to study this at some point, even if you're unlikely to ever perform it. It just exposes you to so many techniques and musical challenges that we usually don't have to deal with in the typical solo literature. And it's a lot more fun than dry technical exercise, which makes it more likely for you to stick around. When comparing recordings, something we quickly notice is that everyone plays this quite differently. Rodrigo was a blind pianist, so all of his guitar music needed to be transcribed from the original Braille notation. There are sometimes chords or voicings that are simply impossible to fret or unreasonably difficult for little gain. Everybody has different solutions to how they circumvent these sections, but just as often we actually see purely stylistic changes. Already at the very start, Paco, for example, slightly changes the strumming pattern. Let me turn on this camera. So this is how it's supposed to go. And flamenco guitarists find this a bit boring, so they would probably play it more like this. It works just fine, and what's most important anyway is that you stay on beat. I'm not going to single anyone out, but it's really already in the first few bars where some major technical deficits are often unveiled. A common criticism we classical players get from flamenco guitarists is that we often overcomplicate things for no good reason. This is often absolutely valid. And even worse, we tend to treat vertical structures as more important than horizontal ones, when it really should almost always be the other way around. Never lose sight of the flow of time. Groove and timing are way more important than hitting all of the notes perfectly. And generally there's so much we can learn from the basic flamenco approach. This emphasis on impulse control, training speed and strength in both directions of a movement and working in short bursts, always embedding even simple exercises in a rhythm. That's really how we should just do it most of the time. All of this doesn't mean classical guitarists can't be great at the Aranjuez, but they certainly won't without a solid foundation in flamenco technique. And my personal favorite is still a classical performance. It's Pepe Romero's 1992 recording with Neville Mariner and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. It's an obvious choice, very popular one, but it checks most of the boxes I'm looking for. Obviously, there is great technical command of all of these techniques. There's a steady pulse and a great synchronization. It has this simple folkloristic appeal, not overcomplicating things. It has the punchy, percussive sound and a great orchestra with immense control even in the pianissimos. The general quality of the recording I find is also really top-notch. Write in the comments what recording you like most. Curiously, there's one name we definitely won't hear, and that's none other than Andrés Segovia. The most famous classical guitarist actually never played the most famous classical guitar piece. Exactly why, we will never know, but it's probably to do both with the fact that it was a celebration of flamenco, which Segovia didn't like, and also because it was dedicated to Regino Sainz de la Maza, which Segovia didn't like either. Of course, Segovia still ended up getting what he wanted when Rodrigo wrote him another guitar concerto, the brilliant and a bit ironically titled Fantasy for a Gentleman. I think to some extent this anxiety towards flamenco technique is still present in a lot of classical guitarists, and I would like to encourage everyone to explore this a lot more. It's really way less complicated than we think. I myself struggled a bit specifically with these arrastre sweeping arpeggios. This stuff here. Keep a strong impulse. Approach the thing really like a flamenco guitarist would. I'm not a flamenco guitarist, but I think I got something with which I'm reasonably happy with. The trick is really to understand that we don't want to go perpendicular to the string, but more like diagonally. To wrap things up, if you're actually one of the few lucky ones that gets to play this piece with an orchestra, here's a few considerations. First, don't be afraid to cut some notes here and there if it makes the line flow better. Don't react too quickly to the conductor's cues. The orchestra will be more sluggish than your guitar, and synchronization goes both ways. What's also crucial is to use body language to communicate timing, because the orchestra will have a hard time seeing and understanding your right hand movements. I know it's really authentic to play without amplification, but you'll be doing no one a favor. You should really amplify the guitar with a good microphone and set up stage monitors, enough to reach everyone in the orchestra. You'll make that job way easier and they'll be more willing to play with a guitarist again in the future. Then maybe even with a different concerto for a change. Thank you so much to Tonebase for making these videos possible. Go on their website to sign up for the 14-day free trial and get instant access to a rich and diverse repository of masterclasses, live streams, workbooks and sheet music, as well as a community of fellow guitarists, all to enable you to choose your own musical adventure. Follow the link in the description to learn more. Let us know in the comments what your favorite experiences with the Aranjuez Concerto are, be it a live concert or a recording. Don't forget to subscribe and to like this video if you enjoyed this. I'm Jakob Schmidt for Tonebase. Cheers for listening and see you next time. You know when a guitar piece gets very serious? It's when they split the music in two lines like with a piano score. Then we're playing grown-up music.